Governor Scott Walker has served as the 45th governor of the state of Wisconsin since 2011.
Governor, thanks for being with us. Is climate change related to human activity, and what steps, if any, should America be taking to address climate change? And I'd like you to comment to the President's proposal today. I believe, I've been a little bit busy today, to cut carbon emissions 25%. Is that realistic?
Well, first off, it's not the clean power plant, it's the costly power plant. It would be like a buzzsaw to the nation's economy. The states like mine and many of the other governors here would be devastated by that. You know, I'm an Eagle Scout. We were taught a long time ago, your campsite should be cleaner when you leave than when you find it. So I want to balance a sustainable environment with a sustainable economy. But the two have to go hand in hand. I want clean air, clean land, clean water, but I want an economy that my children and grandchildren someday can grow in as well. And so the two have to go hand in hand. This proposal today, like I said, is a buzzsaw to the nation's economy, and we need a leader in the White House who's going to actually recognize that balance.
It wasn't long ago when Congress looked at cutting the budget. I think they balked, and sequestration came about. What, if you were elected president, how could you lead and work with Congress, both sides of the aisle, to really cut spending and try to be specific on some areas in that budget that you think could and need to be cut?
Well, I'm all for a balanced budget. I inherited a $3.6 billion budget deficit. We fixed it. In fact, we fixed it and still reduced taxes by some $2 billion. We reduced them on individuals, cut rates, reduced one of the brackets, actually did it on job creators and farmers and manufacturers and others out there. And then we actually lowered property taxes. In fact, property taxes in my state are lower today than they were 4 years ago. So I know how to balance a budget, something I've done in the past. I think it's a combination of things. It can't just be through cuts and austerity. It's got to be through growth and reform. By growth, we laid out a multi-pronged plan to once and for all repeal Obamacare and put patients and families back in charge of their health care, to rein in the sort of things we just talked about, the out-of-control regulations from the federal government that are like a wet blanket on the nation's economy, to put in place an all-of-the-above energy policy that allows us to use the abundance of what God has given us here to make sure that everyone gets the education and skills they need to succeed, and then to reform and lower the tax rates in this country. I think that'll help growth. And then on the other side, on specifics, on reductions, I think a big part of reform is taking major portions of the federal government, being it Medicaid, transportation, education, natural resources, and others, and take them from Washington and send them back to states. Governors of both parties are much better at being more effective, more efficient, and more accountable in managing those programs.
Your path in Wisconsin as governor, you've survived a recall. You've got a good story like some of these other governors on balancing the budget. I think you have a surplus. How much now?
We went from $3.6 billion in all. We started with $1 billion. We used it to cut taxes by about $500,000, and we got another budget that will end up over the next 2 periods with a cash balance again. In fact, our rainy day fund's 165 times bigger than we first took office.
But in the process, you've nationally been known as someone who took on the unions. Are you anti-union or anti-worker?
No, I'm pro-worker and pro-taxpayer. We gave workers the freedom to choose. We made Wisconsin a right-to-work state. We gave workers the freedom to choose whether they want to be in a labor union or not. Many chose to keep that money that they used to pay for union dues to pay for their kids' college education or other things on behalf of their family. We're pro-taxpayer. Before, you know, all the power was concentrated in the hands of the elite union bosses. We instead redistributed that back to the hardworking taxpayers and the people they duly elect. So, for example, in our schools, we no longer have seniority or tenure. We can hire and fire based on merit. We can pay based on performance. That means we can put the best and the brightest in our classrooms. And 4 years later, graduation rates are up. Third grade reading scores are up. ACT scores are now second best in the country. If it can work in a blue state like Wisconsin, it wasn't too late for Wisconsin. It's not too late for America.
Biggest challenge since you've been governor that you feel you were successful on?
Well, without a doubt, taking on that initial challenge with the budget deficit and doing it in a way that really focused on reform and growth, not just on austerity. If I had just been about cuts across the board, I probably would have been recalled. But instead, I focused on reform and growth, and that made all the difference.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.